Hey guys, King of Charmers, to be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you my top 5 teams for the Fossil Cup. Yeah. So the reason why I was hesitating so much on that delivery was the fact that the Fossil Cup isn't... You should have just changed the name, bro. Like, seriously, this isn't even, like, it doesn't even belong in the name. The reason why is because none of the fossil Pokemon are actually viable in this cup. I just can't. You know, we already know Niantic is a dud. We already know they don't work hard. We already know they're a San Francisco tech company that absolutely cares more about your money and doesn't care about their player base. And unless it hurts the bottom line, they really don't care about any of us. Especially when it comes to PvP. So, the Fossil Cup is absolutely terrible. You know, I think it might have been easier if you just made it so only fossil Pokemon were allowed, like certain Pokemon like Omanyte, Amistar, Kabuto, Kabutops, Aurorus, etc. Like, only those Pokemon were allowed. And instead of just, well, actually no. That's actually harder work than it would be the other way around. So that makes more sense. So yeah, Niantic is lazy. We deserve a better game. And there's no way it's going to be a huge tier 1 esport anytime ever, but yeah, dang. I was actually really disappointed too, because when I saw Fossil Cup for the first time, like, without scrolling down, I thought it would actually only be the fossil Pokemon. You know, I'd get to actually use Omanyte or Amistar for, like, a meta team building. No, I'm using Super Meta, which basically is Fossil Cup. Fossil Cup only allows Water, Steel, and Rock. So, Rock is pretty much out of the equation because Water and Steel both beat Rock. That's basically what it is. So, this is basically the Water and Steel Cup. Rather than the, the rock types don't matter. So you might as well just name it the Rock and Steel Cup. I mean, Water Steel Cup. So it's a very wonky and very bland meta. Incredibly lazy. And it's not going to be a whole lot of fun. The good thing is a lot of open Great League mons you have built probably are going to be viable in this cup. And of course, Registeel. But before we get started, my therapist mental health tip of the day is going to be mostly about self-care. So self-care, now self-care is like the broad term people take care of themselves. People that aren't mental health professionals, they're like, make sure you do self-care. You know, you drink coffee, you do whatever the heck not, you make sure you're, yeah. It's a very broad term when it's not really, but here's self-care, and I like this from Therapist Aid. It's a very good self-care defined in a nutshell. So self-care are things you do to maintain good health and improve well-being. You'll find that many of these activities are things you already do as part of your normal routine. As assessment, you want to think about how frequently or how well you're performing different self-care activities. The goal of this assessment is to help you learn about your self-care needs by spotting patterns and recognizing areas of your life that need more attention. There are no right or wrong answers. When you do this assessment, there may be activities that you have no interest in and other activities may not be included. At this point, for me, it's Go Battle League or just PvP in general, because I really am, well, I have interest, but like, not a lot. So I guess that starts. But yeah, this is a really good for your self-care needs. If you never really assess your own self-care, I definitely recommend you look at this assessment or do this assessment. It's a very, it actually like goes through a lot of factors and subjects that I wouldn't even think of too. For example, you have physical self-care like eating regularly, participating in fun activities, getting enough sleep is one of the big ones, resting when you're sick, and physiological, psychological, and social self-care, as well as spiritual and professional self-care. So it's a really good worksheet that goes like more deep into things that I wouldn't even think about. A good one, for example, is that expect my feelings in a healthy, well, not really, no, I do that in a healthy way. Go on vacations or day trips. That's probably one I need to do a lot more, but you know, with coronavirus running around, not really a great idea. Or that, you know, Japan needs to open their borders so that I can go, yeah. But yes, here's the self-care supplement. Make sure if you're not looking, or if you find yourself not having like a really good healthy routine, definitely take this assessment and use it. I've used it before for one of my clients, and it gave me a good little blueprint of what we needed to work on in therapy. So yes, definitely take a look. The description will be below. But yes, practice self-care, take care of yourself. And without further ado, these are my top 5 teams for the Fossil Cup. Let's get started. Alright, so for this team, I the mainstay switches in this cup are going to be Lucario or it's going to be Pelipper. Pelipper is probably the best safe switch in my opinion, actually statistically, because of its ability to pretty much play out of any position outside of being locked. Even if you're locked into a Magnezone, you can Weather Ball down a Magnezone if you have the right intervals, especially if you're able to get extra wing attacks through to get those Weather Ball energy. For this first team, it's Swampert, Excavalier, and Magnezone. So Excavalier can also function as a safe switch, but the only reason Excavalier is pretty much good in this cup is Excavalier beats Lucario. That's pretty much it. Literally, because Excavalier beats Lucario. That's the only reason why. It still does big damage even if Megahorn was resisted, but this team is basically designed to lure out Pelipper. No, seriously. It's basically a Pelipper. It's basically trying to get Pelipper out here. What happens is that if you lose the lead, you're going to safe switch to Excavalier. Excavalier will lure out their Pelipper, and then you try to do as much damage as possible and then farm down with Magnezone. Magnezone with a bazillion energy and shields can take out your opponent in back row along with Swampert and Magnezone with energy. Hopefully can close out the match for you. This is a very bland team. It works really well if you don't see Ferrothorn. Okay, so if you see Ferrothorn, you're gonna have to sack Swampert in the lead or hit an Earthquake. After you sack Swampert in the lead, you're going to send Excavalier to farm down Ferrothorn, and after you take out Ferrothorn, which is probably Magnezone's worst matchup outside of a fighter, you're going to try to close out with all that energy you get from Excavalier and Magnezone with shield. So that's how you play out of those bad matchups. Really solid team. Not a lot of things in the Fossil Cup are going to have bulk. Unless you have Registeel or Araquanid on the same team, you're not going to have a lot of bulk. So just putting that out there. The good thing is there's a lot of combinations that will give you amazing coverage in this cup. Really solid against the overall meta. I already gave you that look on what happens if you lose against Ferrothorn or what happens if you lose a lead with Swampert. Very solid team overall. With your only weakness being Swampert, if you do get the mirror, try to play out the mirror. You can take out the mirror match in Swampert if you're able to get an extra mud shot through and they fire first, or if you just outright win CMP. So try to win out the mirror in the lead if you can, unless your opponent does safe switch out or tries to catch a move. Be careful of that as well. But if they're going to try to catch a move, it's probably going to be a water type, and that's where Magnezone can get sent in and take advantage. Very low threat score of 520. Anything close to 500 is pretty close, but again, with a very bland meta like this, threat score isn't going to matter too much, to be honest with you. So, again, Swampert, Excavalier, Magnezone. If you lose a lead, stay switching Excavalier. Hopefully you can farm up Magnezone, and whatever you have with shields can close out. Next up, we have Triple Water. Yes, Triple Water actually works for this cup. Because Water and Steel are your big meta picks, Pelipper and Poliwrath have amazing coverage to where you can actually take switch against things like Ferrothorn, or Poliwrath can just dynamic punch a Ferrothorn to death. So because you have access to Pokemon like Pelipper and Poliwrath, yes, Triple Water works. You're going to use Hurricane for Pelipper, of course. You can choose to use Power Up Punch for Poliwrath, but I would recommend just Ice Punch Dynamic Punch. Your goal with Poliwrath is to one-shot the unholy crap out of your opponent or be that nuisance in there. Like I mentioned, if you see Ferrothorn, Poliwrath is probably going to be your finisher, unless you could have Pelipper Hurricane through shields, or you could finish off with Pelipper with a Hurricane. Swampert's Earthquake can even do a decent amount of damage against Ferrothorn. So, despite the fact that Ferrothorn does exist in this cup, Pelipper and Poliwrath are able to take it out. Amazing coverage. Like I mentioned before, you're not going to have a lot of bulk when it comes to the Fossil Cup. Everything in here does big damage. Unless you have Registeel and Araquanid in the same team again, you're not going to have a lot of bulk. Good safety and consistency, and this team just rocks your opponent's world. I stand by Pelipper being the most powerful safe switch for pretty much any cup that doesn't allow Sableye, or even outside of that. Like, yeah, pretty much any cup that doesn't have, like, Sableye or anything Sableye, or actually most of it's probably just Sableye. Pelipper, in my opinion, is still really freaking good, or just because of its amazing coverage and the fact that it also wins CMP, you can take the fact that Pelipper has a high attack stat to your advantage. Overall, very, very good team. This team really hates Lucario really hates this team. As you see here, Swampert, Pelipper, and Poliwrath give heavy pressure to Lucario. It's not quite a kill Lucario team, but rather, well, it's kind of a kill Lucario team, but rather, this team takes advantage of the fact that all three of these mons have a lot of coverage, as well as charge move pressure, and Hydro Cannon is overpowered. As you see, this team does have a high threat score of 621. However, like I mentioned before, even if you're facing, like, Ferrothorn's your big one that you're going to go against, you just safe switch into Pelipper and try to close out. It's a very, very powerful team, just because of charge move coverage, this team still really rocks, despite the fact that you lose against it. As much as it says here that you lose against other water picks, when I practiced this team with my friends, I was like, wow, this thing's actually a lot better than I thought it would. And like I mentioned, just because of the charge move coverage and pressure, this team could do really well for you if you don't have other components. Again, I wanted to give you a whole lot of looks. I didn't want to give you the boring kind of like regular basic, yeah, a regular basic, yeah. It was really painful to make teams like, it was really painful to put teams together. It really was, because the problem is with this team, with water and steel being your main meta, it's so bland that it's not that simple. It's not that hard. It really isn't. Most teams will be using the same moves as preferred, so you won't have to worry about getting solar beamed or anything like that, and you should do pretty well in this cup. But yes, triple water can work really well for you, and it's a fun little gimmick to run, and it did a lot better than I thought in practice when I used it. Alright, speaking of Ferrothorn, here's a Ferrothorn team. Ferrothorn, Lucario, Swampert. Lucario is your safe switch in this team. If you do see a Lucario in the lead, you will list safe switch into your own Lucario and try to mirror. But make sure you do it really, really fast so that you're like in even scenarios, or you can get extra counters through their charge moves if they fire on the wrong interval. Ferrothorns will have Thunder. With Thunder, you can one-shot Pelipper, and you don't get walled by things like Registeel. So yes, you want Thunder on your Ferrothorn. But if you do win the lead, the good thing is Ferrothorn beats a lot of the water types in this meta. With Thunder, it slaps the crap out of them. Again, you one-shot Pelipper, and the hanging metal spiked, you know, it's like spiked balls. That's the funny, oh my gosh, it's freaking hilarious. Like, when my buddy was like, dude, when I first learned about their Ferrothorn, like, when I was playing, not Pokemon Go, but the other main series game, one of my friends was like, dude, Ferrothorn looks like hanging, like, spiked hanging balls, or like something you would go like medieval times. It's pretty dang funny. But yes, Ferrothorn is solid for this cup and a top 3 mon. So this team is designed to make Ferrothorn go to town, or put Ferrothorn in the back so it can Thunder and Power Whip in the back for victory, because Power Whip and Thunder, it makes Ferrothorn the number 2 closer, I think, in the Fossil Cup. Again, you're not going to have a lot of bulk. Great coverage, though. A great safety and consistency. This team does a lot of damage. You lose the lead, Lucario will be your safe switch. And as you see here for the Steel-type Archetype, that doesn't completely lull Ferrothorn with Thunder, but does give it a hard time. You can do a lot of damage overall. Your only problem here is probably going to be if you get a double fighter team. Double fighter can be dangerous for you because Ferrothorn and Lucario are going to be in danger. But again, it really just depends, because if you get you could farm down their opposing Lucario if you don't happen to win that mirror match, or there's a lot of fancy things you can do. So this team's very solid, does a whole lot of damage in the closing scenario, like I mentioned, with Swampert and Ferrothorn in there, and Ferrothorn with Thunder gives you a lot of coverage with the lowest threat score I have seen putting teams together. This team has a very low threat score, a lot of great combinations when you put it together, if you recognize matchups pretty well, or if you just do a little bit of research, because you don't need to go too deep. In a nutshell, you lose a lead, safe switch to Lucario. If you don't win the lead, you can farm out with Swampert or Ferrothorn, get some extra energy in there, or you could leave. If you don't, you could sack Ferrothorn in the lead. I don't recommend you sack Ferrothorn in the lead, because you're probably going to be against a fighter, and if you are against a fighter, it's really going to suck. In that case, just safe switch to Lucario. Or you outright win the lead against Ferrothorn, you zap Pelipper to death with Thunder or any other water types, or you power whip the unholy crap out of the opposing Swampert. Alright, and now we go on to ABB. Speaking of the giant human trash can, we have Registeel, Pelipper, and Swampert. In my opinion, Registeel should have never got buffed. Registeel is like that unnecessary overpowered power-up any freaking anime in, like, no, seriously, like, in anime history, don't you have that one super overpowered character that somehow just can never die? For many of that's Saitama from One Punch Man, because Saitama just never, he's so overpowered, he kills everything with one punch and just makes everything look silly. If your workout routine is 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and a 10-kilometer run, there is no reason any superhero or superhuman, in fact, not even Superman, can do that much damage with one punch. In other words, Saitama is extremely overpowered. Another example would probably be, let's see, what's another example for being supremely overpowered? Oh yeah, Goku, because whenever Goku dies or is in any sort of danger, all he needs to do is die, come back to life, and he has another form of Super Saiyan or Ultra Instinct. There you go. That is my anime talk for the day. But yes, Registeel should not get buffed in my opinion. But because it got buffed, this team works. You got Registeel, Pelipper, and Swampert. Pelipper, again, is a fantastic safe switch. Even if you do get Azu thrown into, Hurricane can do wonders if you're able to get a Hurricane through shields. Or you could put a lot of pressure if you're really good about timing those weather balls. Really solid team across the board. Amazing coverage. Good bulk. Not very safe, but that's actually false in my opinion, just because of the fact that, like, again, Pelipper is really freaking good if you're able to just get Hurricane through shields or just get weather balls going. It literally balls out like Steph Curry in Game 4 of the NBA Finals, if you are a basketball fan. Really solid across the board. Your only big thing is probably going to be Quagsire, because Quagsire gives you a little bit of problem with Registeel and Pelipper. Yes, Pelipper takes resisted shots from mud shots, but Stone Edge hits big and Earthquake has good coverage. Quagsire isn't too much to worry about, not a super huge threat, but just putting that out there, be careful of Quagsire, because Lord Quagsire will take you and your soul. So, Lord Quagsire, despite this, an incredibly low threat score of 459. Overall, in my opinion, the best ABB team if you're going to put it together. I have another one on here, but in my opinion, this is like the best ABB theme I could think of. As you can see, it didn't really take a lot of brain power to figure it out, but if you lose the lead with Registeel, say switch into Pelipper, try to win out switch, or whatever's going on, then realign with Swampert. Normally, whatever Registeel is weak against, Swampert can cover, which is mainly going to be those fighters. So Swampert beats Excavalier as well as Lucario, the two main fighters, if you get lined up against them. That's why winning switch with this team is pretty generic, low threat score, really solid, and will do well for you if you decide to use it for the Fossil Cup. And last but not least, we have Lucario, Pelipper, Quagsire, another ABB team. Lucario, if you can win the lead, if you rev up with Power Punch, it's extremely dangerous, and it is a top lead for this cup. This is just another variation of the previous team. Again, double water works. Pelipper is an incredible safe switch. We have Quagsire to close out this time around though, because with Earthquake, you can one-shot Registeel, Stone Edge hits those Pelippers for super effective damage. So, very generic and solid team. Runs like the last one. You'll lose a lead with Lucario, you safe switch into Pelipper, you close out with Quagsire. Lucario is a very powerful pick. Again, if you are able to power punch your way to victory or just generally win the lead, with a little bit of energy and revved up with Pup, Lucario is very, very dangerous. The problem is Excavalier, so Excavalier is going to give you the hardest time. That's what you have Pelipper and Quagsire for. Hopefully, Pelipper and Quagsire could close out for you. Quagsire, the problem with Quagsire is that it just doesn't have a lot of that charge move pressure. You could replace Quagsire with Swampert. If you don't want to use Quagsire, I think Swampert's better in my opinion, if you put just overall, but Quagsire works because it has Stone Edge. Solid team across the board, same stats as the previous one. Really good against overall meta. Again, it's basically functions like the previous team. You'll lose the lead with Lucario, you'll say switch into Pelipper, and then Quagsire and Lucario try to close out. The great thing about Quagsire is that Quagsire is a very solid mon. If you're able to take out Ferrothorn with Pelipper or Lucario, Quagsire can close out against a whole lot of different combinations with Stone Edge, etc. The main thing it has against Swampert is that it does have a coverage move against Pelipper. You do have Stone Edge. The problem is Stone Edge won't quite one-shot. You need a little bit of chip on Pelipper in order for it to do so, but it's still very powerful. Overall, really solid team. Little high on the threat score and compared to the last team, but if you like Lucario and you don't have a Registeel, this team is for you. Again, you can replace Quagsire with Swampert. That's another alternative if you want that extra fast move or charge move pressure. Hydro Cannon is overpowered. That's all we need to know, and it is. So again, if you don't have Registeel, this team is solid, will do well for you. I like Lucario a lot for this cup, especially with Power Up Punch. Of course, the only thing that you have to worry about is definitely Excavalier. Lose the lead with Lucario, switch to Pelipper, close out with Quagsire, and Lucario with shields can hopefully win you the match. That's game. Oh my gosh, and we still don't have an unranked mode, and we're still limited to only 25 battles a day for some odd reason for Pokemon Go PvP. No, seriously. This is stuff that I've been complaining about for like the longest time, but for some reason it still hasn't made any improvements. The problem with Go Battle League, or just Pokemon Go PvP in general, we still don't have Eld items, we don't have abilities, we don't have anything else in addition to the same system that's been around for 4 years and hasn't pulled in a large amount of viewers. Pokemon Go, to put it in perspective, Pokemon Unite broke double digit thousand viewers, 10,000 or more on Twitch, and Pokemon Go barely struggles to get past 2. That's how bad it is. But yeah. Well, at this point, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because you don't want them to do anything with Go Battle League or PvP in general, for the sheer risk that Niantic is probably gonna break it. We all know when Niantic adds something, something's going to go wrong. Most of the time, and that has happened 90 or more % of the time whenever they've ever updated anything in Pokemon Go. Hopefully things will get better, but this isn't the way to go. Making really blatant lazy cups like this one that don't even feature fossil Pokemon to begin with, or lowering the barrier to entry so that we can get newer players to play the game, it's not going to do anything better for Pokemon Go PvP overall. Sadly, this is a very bland meta, super bland meta. If you don't want to play this, the only option you have is Master League though, so unless you do want to play Open Master League with level 50s, etc., or if you whale and have that arsenal, Fossil Cup is definitely your way to go. The good thing is a lot of combinations for the Fossil Cup are very similar to Open Great League, so if you're really good at Open Great League, this cup's going to be for you. But I really wish there was something different. I really wish the cup fossils were highlighted. Other than that, I hope y'all do enjoy this cup, and I hope y'all are doing well. For me, I'm not doing all my sets this season. I probably won't, unless it's a worthy reward or really interests me. I'm perfectly fine with not doing all my sets, or just at all. Yeah. But I hope y'all are I hope y'all are happy that there's new ranks, etc. But again, it's really bland. Same thing. Hasn't changed a bit. Do me a huge favor, please like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Like all of you do, I really do appreciate y'all, every single one of you. I do stream on Twitch on Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. I took a break off for the past 3 weeks though, because just because I have a lot of things going on. I'm trying to finish up a rest of my progress notes, etc. for therapy, for being a therapist, so that I can go ahead and just enjoy my summer. So just putting that out there. But yes, I will go back to being consistent with my streaming, when I do. But other than that, I hope y'all do enjoy the rest of your battles. Like I mentioned, Fossil Cup is coming pretty soon. Hopefully you do find a little bit of joy, despite the fact that Go Battle League or PvP is very bland right now. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see y'all on the next video.